Although his existence is shrouded in mystery and legend, Lao Tzu became one of the most influential figures in Eastern philosophy. He lived in ancient China over 2,500 years ago, possibly as an archivist in the imperial court. They say that when he decided to leave civilization, a guard at the border asked him to record his wisdom before departing. And there the Tao Te Ching was born, one of the most profound texts ever written about how to live. His teachings revolve around the Tao, the natural way of all things, and Wu Wei, the principle of acting without forcing. Instead of fighting against the flow of life, it's better to align ourselves with it, according to Lao Tzu, and develop an attitude of non-resistance toward the external world, allowing things to happen in their own time. And I look around today and see us living exactly the opposite of this. Running all the time, doing 10 things at once, filling every empty second as if stopping meant losing everything. Could it be that Lao Tzu wasn't right all along? Speed has become a virtue. The faster you do something, the better you are. We order food and it arrives in minutes. Want to watch something and it's instant. Search for information and it appears before you even finish typing. Everything became immediate. And somehow, we started to believe that all of life should work this way. That relationships should be fast. That learning should be instantaneous. That happiness should come without delay. Hurry stopped being a means to become a lifestyle. There's something seductive about it. The feeling of control, of mastery. You look at your completed list and feel like you're winning, making better use of time, living intensely. But I wonder if this intensity is real, or just a well-constructed illusion. Because there's a huge difference between living many things and living deeply. We've turned quantity into a synonym for quality, and in the process, lost what really matters. Modern culture sold us an idea: speeding up improves life. Doing more is being more. And this became an unquestionable social ideal. Everyone running, everyone busy, and if you dare go slower, it's as if you're wasting your life. Society taught us to fear emptiness, silence, free time. Because free time seems like wasted time, but is faster really better? I look at the people around me and many are exhausted. They have everything that speed promised to give, but they don't have peace. They don't have presence. Life isn't being lived, just passing by too fast. And there's something deeply wrong with that, because the promise was that if you did more, had more, achieved more, you'd be happier. But the equation doesn't add up. The more you do, the emptier you feel. The more you achieve, the farther you get from yourself. Maybe we need to question this belief that more is better, because it might be that we've been running in the wrong direction all along. It was in this context that slow living emerged. Living slowly. And at first, this sounds almost rebellious, as if you're going to fall behind, miss opportunities. But slow living isn't about giving up. It's about understanding that less can be more, choosing presence instead of hurry, meaning instead of quantity. Maybe it's about recovering something we lost, the ability to truly live. And look at the irony. We need a movement, a philosophy, a pretty name to justify doing what was always natural. Living at your own pace, being present, feeling things. As if this was some innovation, some modern discovery, when in reality, it's just going back to basics, going back to what always worked before we decided we needed to do everything at once at maximum speed. And Lao Tzu already knew this. He saw it in water. Water doesn't fight the rock, doesn't try to force the path. It simply flows, goes around, waits, and with time, without any hurry, water shapes the hardest rock. Wu Wei, acting without forcing. Maybe this is the lesson we most need to relearn, that you don't need to force so much, that there's a way of doing things that doesn't exhaust you, that doesn't destroy you, a way that works with the natural flow of life, not against it. But we learned the opposite. We learned that everything is a fight, that you need to fight for your spot, fight for your space, fight for your place in the sun. And then you spend your whole life fighting, against time, against circumstances, against other people, against yourself. And in the end, you're so tired of fighting that you completely forgot why you started fighting. forgot what you were seeking, forgot who you were before you became a soldier in this war that no one can win. Hurry has a hidden cost. We rarely stop to calculate it. We just feel it. The tiredness that never passes. The restlessness that becomes constant company. The feeling that it's never enough. Accelerated life generates superficiality. You pass through many things, but don't truly touch any of them. You watch, but don't absorb. You talk, but don't connect. You eat, but don't savor. You exist, but don't inhabit. At the end of the day, you look back and can't remember almost anything, because hurry doesn't leave space for memory to form, doesn't leave time for meaning to emerge. Memory needs time to consolidate, to transform into something more than just information, to become experience, to become part of who you are. But when you're always running, there's no time for that. You accumulate moments, but none of them stick. None of them deepen. None of them become real memories. They're just flashes, fragments, loose pieces that don't form any narrative. And in the end, you have the strange feeling that you lived a lot, but didn't live anything. That time passed, but you weren't there to see it. You live everything so fast that it seems like you didn't live anything. When you're always running to the next thing, you're never completely where you are. Your mind has already jumped to the next commitment. This destroys the capacity for attention. You lose the ability to dive deep, to completely surrender to a moment. Everything becomes fragmented. Your attention divided into 1,000 pieces. You live in a constant state of semi-presence, half here, half there, never totally anywhere. And this isn't living, it's surviving at high speed. And there's a psychological price to this, because your mind wasn't made to function this way. It wasn't made to jump from one thing to another in a matter of seconds, to be in 10 places at once, to process 1,000 pieces of information simultaneously. It needs focus, needs depth, needs time to truly understand something, to truly feel something. But you don't give it that time. You just pass, 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 and it never manages to go deep into anything. Always stays on the surface, always jumping, always restless. And you feel this constant restlessness, this inability to stay quiet, to be at peace, because you trained your mind to never be at peace, to always be in motion. And now, even when you want to stop, it can't. You wake up already tired, sleep still worried, carry a mental list of unfinished things that only grows. And your body feels it, your mind feels it, but you continue, because stopping seems impossible. Because if you stop, everything will crumble. Or maybe you'll discover that much of what you thought was essential was just unnecessary weight you were carrying, because someone said you should. And there's fear in this, fear of discovering you were wrong all along, that you were running in the wrong direction, that you were chasing things that don't matter. So it's easier to keep running, keep busy, keep without time to think, because if you stop, if you really stop and look at your life with honesty, you'll have to admit some things, you'll have to face some truths, and maybe you're not ready for that. Maybe that's why you never stop. When you live in a hurry, experience loses depth. That meal you ate while looking at your phone, that conversation while thinking about something else, that walk taking photos to post without really seeing what was around you. Hurry transforms everything into surface. You consume, but don't savor. You see, but don't observe. You hear, but don't listen. And you lose the richness of details, the texture of life, the nuances that make something memorable. Because depth requires time, requires pause, and hurry doesn't allow this. It drags you to the next thing before you have a chance to feel the first. Have you noticed how you don't remember the details anymore? How everything kind of blends into an indistinct mass of passing days? Because you're not paying attention. Not really. You're there physically, but mentally you're already gone. Already at the next commitment, the next task, the next problem, and the present moment, the moment that's actually happening, that one you missed. Pass through it without even noticing. And when you try to remember later, you won't have anything to remember, because you were never really there. Hurry robbed us of the ability to appreciate, to be present, to let the experience happen at its own pace. We want everything fast, immediate pleasure, instant response, results now. And when things don't come at that speed, we give up, move on to the next, as if life were an infinite sequence of stimuli that need to be consumed as quickly as possible. And there's something deeply sad about this, because you're treating your life like a queue, like a to-do list to be crossed off, like a menu to be consumed. You grab, consume, discard, next. Grab, consume, discard, next. Without ever really savoring anything, without ever really connecting with anything, just consuming, just passing through, just accumulating empty experiences that leave no mark. And in the end, you have the feeling of having eaten a lot, but not having been nourished, of having seen a lot, but not having seen anything, of having lived a lot, but not having truly lived. Schopenhauer saw this a long time ago. Hurry, excessive stimuli, the constant pursuit of status produce illusions of happiness and deepen human discomfort, because the will is never satisfied. You achieve something and it already wants the next thing. You reach a goal and it already puts another one in front of you. And you run and run and never get anywhere because the destination always moves. He saw humanity trapped in this endless cycle. The will pushes us from one desire to another, never letting us be at peace. And modern life only made this worse. Multiplied desires, intensified urgency, accelerated the cycle. Now you don't just want more, you want more faster. And when you get it, there's not even time to savor the achievement, because you're already looking at the next one. He talked about two types of pleasure. The pleasures of the will, which are immediate, intense, but fleeting. You feel them, but they don't last. You need more. And the pleasures of the intellect, of contemplation, of art, of reflection. These are slower. They require time, but they're deeper, more lasting, more meaningful. They don't leave you agitated. They leave you at peace. Maybe we're chasing the wrong pleasures. We want everything fast, intense now. And this keeps us in a constant state of agitation, of dissatisfaction. The pleasures that truly nourish us require deceleration, require you to stop, to surrender, to remain long enough for something to happen inside you. Lao Tzu said something profound about this. When you're in a hurry, you never arrive. Because hurry isn't speed, it's agitation. It's movement without direction. It's effort without purpose. You're doing a lot, but you're not accomplishing anything. The more you run, the farther you get from where you really want to be. Because the destination isn't up ahead. The destination is here. It's now. It's in this moment that you're letting pass because you're too busy running to the next one. Epicurus already understood this a long time ago. He talked about pleasure, but not the way most people imagine. It wasn't about seeking constant stimuli, about accumulating experiences, about chasing everything that gives you a quick hit of satisfaction. Epicurus talked about static pleasure, that pleasure that comes from the absence of pain, from the satisfaction of simple desires, from the tranquility of not needing much to be well. And this changes everything. Because if happiness is in simple things, you don't need to run, don't need to accumulate, don't need to do more and more to feel complete. His philosophy was radical for his time, and it continues to be radical today. Because he was saying that you don't need what society says you need, that you can be happy with less, much less, and that this happiness is more lasting, more stable, more real than anything the frantic pursuit of more can give you. He divided desires into three categories: the natural and necessary ones, like simple food, shelter, true friendships. These are easy to satisfy and bring lasting tranquility. Then came the natural, but not necessary ones, like luxurious food, extra comforts. These can bring pleasure, but they're not essential, and pursuing them can bring more restlessness than peace. And lastly, the vain desires, like fame, excessive wealth, status. These are never completely satisfied, and only generate more tension. When you understand this, you realize that most of what we run after is in that last category, chasing things that will never truly fulfill. And while you chase, you ignore the things that could actually satisfy you, the simple things, the things that were always within your reach, but that you never had time to notice because you were too busy running after the impossible. The less you depend on intense and immediate pleasures, the less pressure you feel, less need to run, because you're no longer at the mercy of your infinite wants. You learn to find satisfaction in the simple, in the essential, and this frees you, gives you time, gives you space, allows you to breathe. Thoreau also understood this. When he went to live in the forest, it wasn't because he was running from life. It was because he was seeking to truly live, to live deliberately, as he said. He wanted to extract from life only what was essential, cut away everything that was superfluous, distraction, noise, and discover what really mattered. He realized that modern society was building a prison of obligations, of possessions, of expectations, and that most people lived running to keep all of this functioning, but never had time to actually live. He didn't want that. He wanted simplicity, time, presence. He went to the woods because he wanted to suck all the marrow out of life. He wanted to live deeply. He wanted to face only the essential facts of existence and see if he couldn't learn what it had to teach, so as not to discover, at the moment of death, that he hadn't lived. Because life is so precious that he didn't want to live what wasn't life, didn't want resignation when there could be life. Thoreau talked about going to the woods because he wanted to live with purpose, didn't want to reach the end of life and discover he hadn't lived, that he had spent his days doing things that didn't matter, following rules that made no sense, running after goals that weren't really his. How many of us are doing exactly this? Living someone else's life, following the script that society wrote, running because everyone runs, and forgetting to ask if this is what we really want. The simple life that Thoreau defended wasn't about deprivation, it was about freedom. Freedom from not needing so many things, from not depending on so much, from not being tied to infinite obligations. When you simplify, you gain time, you gain clarity, you gain the possibility of making real choices, because complexity traps, excess traps, speed traps, and simplicity liberates, gives you space to breathe, to think, to feel, to finally discover who you are when no one is watching, when no expectation is weighing on you, when it's just you and life, face to face. Have you noticed how you're always trying to anticipate everything, as if life were a marathon and you had to get ahead of everyone? But where are you running to? I look around and see people getting there, to the place they thought they wanted to reach, and discovering it wasn't quite that the race wasn't worth it. And then what? Either you admit you were chasing the wrong thing, or you invent a new race so you don't have to stop and face the emptiness. And that's the trap. You never arrive because the destination always moves. There's always a new goal, a new objective, a new thing to conquer. And you run, and run, and run. And when you finally reach something, there's no real satisfaction. Just a momentary relief followed by, and now, what's next? And you're already running again. Because stopping would mean admitting that maybe you don't know where you're going. And that's a truth too scary to face. Spending your whole life postponing life. Saying that when you get there, when you achieve that, then you'll be able to relax. You'll finally be able to live. But that moment never comes. Because when you arrive, you're already looking at the next place. Always postponing the moment of truly being here, of truly living what you have now. We were trained for this. From childhood, you learn that value is in doing, in conquering, in being productive. At no point does anyone teach you to simply be. To exist without needing to prove anything. To be at peace with what you are. Because being doesn't yield anything. Being doesn't drive the economy. So we forgot how to do it. And then you grow up thinking you need to justify your existence. That you need to prove you deserve to be here. That you need to do to have value. and you spend your whole life trying to prove. To whom? You don't even know anymore. To your parents, to society, to yourself. But you prove. You do. You conquer. And you continue feeling it's not enough. Because it never is. Because you're seeking validation in the wrong place. You're seeking from the outside something that can only be found from the inside. When you finally stop, you realize how difficult this is. Because you don't know anymore how to be with yourself. Don't know what to do with silence. With free time. And this scares you. Makes you feel like you're wasting time. And then you go back to running. Because running is more comfortable than stopping and facing everything you avoided while you were too busy. But what are you avoiding? Maybe it's yourself. The realization that you don't know anymore who you are when you're not doing anything. You spent so much time defining your value by what you do that you forgot your value doesn't depend on that. You're valuable because you exist, not because you produce, not because you conquer, simply because you exist. We're so busy making life happen that we forget to live the life that's happening. We plan the future. We worry about the future. We work for the future. We sacrifice the present for the future. But the future never arrives. Because when it arrives, it's the present. And you're so busy planning the next future that you don't live the present that finally arrived. So your whole life passes somewhere between the past you ruminate on and the future you anticipate. But never here, never now. Never in the only moment that truly exists. In the only moment where life can truly be lived. Slowing down seems like a luxury. Seems like something for people who have time. But is it really? Or is it just another excuse to keep running? Because slowing down doesn't mean stopping work. It means doing things differently, being present while you do them, choosing what matters and letting the rest go, protecting your time and your attention as the most valuable resources you have. Everyone has the same time, 24 hours a day. The difference is in how you choose to use it. You can fill every minute with obligations, or create space, to breathe, to think, to feel. When you're present, you do things better, with more clarity. But even if you didn't, it would still be worthwhile. Because productivity isn't the meaning of life. Living is. And there's something deeply wrong with measuring your life by your productivity, as if you were a machine. As if the value of your existence depended on how much you produce, how much you do, how much you deliver. But you're not a machine. You're a human being. And being human isn't about producing. It's about living, feeling, experiencing, connecting, growing, loving, suffering, learning, being. And none of this appears on a productivity spreadsheet. None of this counts as achievement, but it's all that really matters. We normalized tiredness. Being exhausted became a badge. Being overloaded. As if this were a sign of importance. But why did exhaustion become synonymous with success? Burnout isn't a sign that you're living intensely. It's a sign that you're living unsustainably, that you're spending more than you have, and you feel it in your body. But you continue, because stopping seems impossible. When you start to simplify, something interesting happens. You realize you don't miss it, that those commitments that filled your schedule didn't make that much difference, that you can live with less, do less, be less productive, and be happier, more at peace, more present. Because the equation doesn't add up the way society sold it. Doing more doesn't make you happier, it makes you more tired. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled one of the greatest empires in the world, understood something that most busy people don't understand. He knew that greatness isn't in doing much. It's in doing what's essential. He wrote that most of what disturbs and occupies us is unnecessary. That if you eliminate the superfluous, you gain time, you gain calm, you gain clarity. He defended doing less, but doing what really matters, not dispersing in 1,000 directions. Focus, choose, prioritize the essential, and let the rest go. And this, coming from an emperor, is especially powerful, because he had more responsibilities than any of us will ever have. He ruled an empire, dealt with wars, with politics, with conspiracies, with constant threats. He had 1,000 reasons to always be busy, always running, always worried. And even so, he found time to write, to reflect, to be present, because he understood that if he didn't do this, it didn't matter how many military victories he achieved, didn't matter how much power he accumulated, he would be losing the only thing that really mattered, his own life. Eliminating the unnecessary isn't laziness, it's wisdom. It's understanding that your time is finite, that your energy is limited, that your attention is precious. If you spend all of this on things that don't matter, you won't have anything left for what really matters. It's about protecting the essential, creating space. Space for what nourishes you, for what transforms you, for what makes you feel alive. And the rest can go, because the rest was only keeping you busy, not making you happy. Less dispersed action, more presence. That's the key. We live acting all the time, but without really being present in any of the actions. Always with our head in the future, worried about what's coming, or in the past, ruminating on what passed, but never here, never now. And it's here and now that life is happening. It's here and now that you can truly live. But you're always absent, always mentally somewhere else. And when you finally arrive at that other place, you'll be thinking about the next one. So your whole life passes without ever being where you are, without ever inhabiting your own life. Lao Tzu observed water, how it flows, how it goes around obstacles, how it doesn't force. It follows the natural path. And with time, water shapes the rock, not with force, with persistence, with patience, with flow. Wu Wei isn't passivity, it's intelligent action. It's understanding that not everything needs to be forced, that you don't need to break down doors. You can wait for them to open. Follow the flow instead of swimming against it. But what does Wu Wei really mean in practice? It means stopping trying to control everything. It means understanding that you can plant the seed, but you can't force the tree to grow. You water, you care, but you don't pull the plant upward trying to accelerate the process. Life is like this. There are things you can do, and there are things only time can do. And when you try to force what only time can do, you only create suffering. And there's nuance in this, because it's not about being passive. It's not about doing nothing and waiting for things to fall from the sky. It's about understanding the difference between necessary action and desperate action, between productive effort and effort that only exhausts you, between working with life and fighting against it. And this difference is subtle, but when you learn to feel it, when you learn to perceive it, everything changes. Lao Tzu said that the sage acts without excessive effort. He doesn't stand still, but he also doesn't exhaust himself. He does what needs to be done, but does it in harmony with the moment. If it's time to act, he acts. If it's time to wait, he waits. And he doesn't fight against this. Doesn't get tense wanting things to happen faster, because he understands that everything has its time, and that respecting this time isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's understanding that you're part of a larger flow, not the center of it. When you align with this flow, instead of fighting against it, everything becomes lighter. Modern life teaches you the opposite. It teaches you that you need to force, that you need to fight, that if you're not forcing, if you're not fighting, you're losing. And maybe sometimes you need to, but maybe not all the time. Maybe you're spending too much energy fighting things you could go around, forcing situations that could resolve themselves if you gave them time. And this exhausts you, because you're fighting against the current, trying to control the uncontrollable. And in the end, you're so exhausted from the fight that you have no energy for anything else, not even to enjoy what you conquered, not even to live what you have, not even to be who you are. Think about how many times you tried to force a relationship that wasn't flowing. How many times you forced a conversation, forced a decision, forced a solution, and in the end, all you got was more tension, more conflict, more wear. And afterward, when you finally let go, when you stopped forcing, things resolve themselves. Or they didn't resolve, and you realize they didn't need to be resolved that way, that there was another path, a path you couldn't see because you were too busy forcing the path you thought was right. Wu Wei isn't about giving up. It's about choosing your battles. It's about understanding where your action is necessary and where it's just unnecessary resistance. It's about working with life instead of against it. It's about trusting that some things will resolve without you forcing. And this is difficult, because we were taught that if we're not doing something, nothing will happen. But look at nature. It does everything without apparent effort. Trees grow, flowers bloom, everything in the right time, without hurry, without force, just flow. And everything realizes itself perfectly. Lao Tzu said something else, that the truly strong person is like water, soft, flexible, apparently fragile. But in the end, water defeats the rock, because the rock is rigid, and everything that's rigid breaks. Water adapts, goes around, changes form, and precisely because of this, it survives. Maybe we need to learn this. Stop trying to be the rock, rigid, inflexible, and start being more like water, adaptable, flexible, capable of changing the path without losing the destination, learning to trust in time, in the process, in the natural flow of life, learning that not everything needs to happen now, that not everything can be forced, and that this doesn't mean you're standing still. It means you're flowing, working with life, not against it. And this changes everything, because you stop carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Stop forcing until you break, and you start to flow, to allow, to trust. Lao Tzu had another powerful observation. He said that emptiness is what makes things useful. The emptiness inside the cup is what allows you to put water in it. The emptiness inside the house is what allows you to live there. And maybe the emptiness in your schedule, the emptiness in your day, the emptiness in your mind is exactly what makes your life useful. What allows something new to enter? What creates space for you to truly live? But we're so afraid of emptiness that we fill every second, and then there's no space left for anything, for any surprise, for any possibility, for any real life to happen. It's like trying to fill a cup that's already full. No matter how much you pour, nothing new enters, because there's no space. And your life is like this, so full, so filled, so busy, that there's no space for anything new, for any discovery, for any transformation. You're so busy maintaining everything you already have, doing everything you already do, being everything you already are, that there's no space to become something else, to grow, to change, to evolve. And then you're stuck, not because you don't want to change, but because you don't have space for change to happen. We live running, doing 1,000 things at once, accumulating experiences, and in the process, we don't truly know anything. We pass through everything so fast that nothing touches, nothing transforms. It's all surface. And when we reach the end, we look back and realize we lived thousands of moments, but didn't inhabit any of them, because we were always running to the next one. You collect moments like someone who collects stamps, mark places visited, take photos of everything, make lists of what you've already done, and you feel this strange need to do more, to see more, to have more, as if life were a points game and you needed to maximize your score before time runs out. But life isn't about points. It's not about quantity. It's about quality, about depth, about truly being where you are, truly feeling what you're feeling, truly living what you're living. And you can't do that while running. What if life isn't about quantity? What if it's about depth? What if living well is feeling more, being more present, allowing fewer things to touch you more deeply? We confused living with doing. And now we're doing so much that we forgot to live. Slowing down is scary. When you stop, you come face to face with everything you were avoiding. The silence, the thoughts, the emotions you didn't have time to feel, the loneliness you were filling with noise, the questions you were muffling with busyness. And this hurts. That's why we run. Because running is easier than stopping and looking inward. But you can't run from yourself forever. At some point, you'll have to stop. And maybe it's better to stop now, the way you choose, than to wait until life forces you. Because life will eventually force you, whether through a crisis, through burnout, through a collapse, through something that forces you to stop. And when that happens, it won't be on your time. It won't be your way. It will be brutal. It will be painful. It will be at the moment you least expect and least want. So maybe it's better to choose. Choose to stop now, slowly, carefully, intentionally, while you still can choose. Because if you don't choose, life will choose for you. And it won't ask if you're ready. When you finally slow down, when you allow life to happen at its own pace, something changes. You realize you weren't losing anything. You were gaining presence, clarity, peace. Fewer commitments doesn't mean less life. It means more life. Because you finally have space to live what's happening, to feel, to think, to be. And this isn't loss, it's freedom. Maybe we need to stop measuring life by how much we do, and start measuring by how much we feel, by how much we're present. Because in the end, what matters is if you were there when you did it, if you felt it, if you lived it. All these thinkers are saying something similar, each in their own way. Epicurus would tell you that happiness is in simple things. Thoreau would tell you that you need to live deliberately. Schopenhauer would tell you that deep pleasures are slow. Marcus Aurelius would tell you that doing less is doing better. But it's Lao Tzu who brings the deepest synthesis. He would tell you that nature doesn't hurry, yet everything gets accomplished. That forcing creates resistance, and flowing creates harmony. That you don't need to fight so much. That you can simply be, as water is, as the tree is, as everything in nature is, without hurry, without excessive effort, without constant war against time and against yourself. Slow down, simplify, be present, live deeply instead of living a lot, because life isn't a race, it never was. And if you treat it like one, you'll reach the end without having truly lived anything, without having felt anything, without having been present in any moment. And Lao Tzu already knew this over 2,000 years ago. That hurry doesn't take you anywhere. It just makes you spin in circles faster and faster, until you're so dizzy you can no longer see where you're going. Life is happening now, and you can be in it or keep running while it passes by. The choice has always been yours, but choose soon, because the time you have to make this choice is also passing.